Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
And what is going on, everyone? It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are tuned in for another edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative Editor-in-Chief. To my left, you're right at home. It's in his contract. He does his own intro.
Yeah, I'm an Agile Live and Direct straight from the ODPH studios. My name's Off the Cuff Tom, Nerd Initiative's pop culture connoisseur. Always a pleasure.
Yes, and joining us our other co-hosts here, you know him as one half of the dynamic duo of Drafts and Dialogue, bringing you that pop culture knowledge you need to know each and every single week. It's Matt from Hops Geeks News. Matt, what's going on?
What up? As you know, it takes a lot to get me away from Legos, especially when I have a very nice new Xavier mansion behind me. However, having talked with Zach before, making friends and getting to talk with him about Beyond Real, and then reading and covering Kill All Immortals as I have been each and every month, this is one of the best comic books from Dark Horse right now. So, of course, I got to make time for my man here. We got to talk about this book. It is effing incredible, and I'm ready to dive into it, man. Zach, thanks for coming and hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, so definitely, if you're just tuning in, we are going to be talking about one of the best books on the market right now from Dark Horse Comics. It is Succession meets John Wick meets Vikings. Yes, you wanted to talk about a book that stands out on its own. This is the one you need to go make sure you're picking up at the comic shops. And we're very fortunate to have the writer behind this on the show. You know his work from Mindset, Beyond Real, and Breakout. Please give a warm welcome to the one and only Zack Kaplan. Zach, thank you so much for swinging by the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's get into this. This book, like Matt alluded to, it's a personal favorite here at the Nerd Initiative Bullpen. How the heck did this whole story come to be? Because there is a lot happening with this.
That's true. I think like my process for coming up with ideas is kind of to have a lot of various things kind of swirling at the same time, and it just kind of coalesces. And for this one, it was part wanting to do something with immortality and trying to find the modern way in to do immortality, and part just really being into Viking lore and wanting to do something with Vikings. And it kind of all came together. The immortality in this story is kind of a metaphor for billionaires and kind of the barbarism of capitalism, and that seemed to connect really easily to Vikings. So that was kind of the origin of it all.
Yeah, because I mean it's impressive to see all this get blended together, and then like the final result is just one that, like, literally when you see the cover and some of the pages going on, there is a lot of moving parts here, and all for the right reasons too. Like, this is something that just jumps out at the shops. Wouldn't you say, Tom?
Oh my God, it's fantastic. Like, I try to do my homework right before we do episodes, so everything's fresh. And trust me, I have fresh spattered panels on pages in the back of my head right now. So you're doing, tears work out there. Let me tell you.
There's a lot of blood.
Yeah, well,
it's my most violent book to date, for sure. Yeah, we have a lot of fun with it, but it's all like intentionally connected to the story in the best of ways. It's a brutal world they're in. So, and
it's not gore for gore's sake. That's
right.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's not. It's very much like every kill, every fight. It has like a purpose. I mean, it's not like, oh, and now they're fighting against their family just because we need to do something here. No, it's, Frey is one of the most badass women I have seen in comics, like, period, hands down. Was there any point, speaking of violence and blood, like, because this gets pretty just like out there. Was there any hesitation? Was there any like, whoa, you got to pull back a little bit on just how far we are going in this?
There has not been that yet. We kind of, at the very onset, kind of knew that one of the mission statements was to have a violent, action-packed book. We were going to have blood splattering. We talked about wanting to lean into it for sure. And I'm sure there are limits that we would hit, but we haven't hit them yet. So we, you know, and every time I write something and then Fico, you know, brings it to life with amazing, you know, frenetic inks, and it's all very awesome. There's not been anything that we've shied away from, but we keep trying to raise the stakes on it. And then, you know, Thiago Roches are an amazing color, so we'll talk more about the art, but like we talked about the color of blood, the like what's the right color of blood, how do we go bright enough that it leaps off the page but not too dominant. So like we put a lot of thought into it, but no, but it's important, like you said, it's important to all be connected and grounded, to have the story be propellant, have phrase, journey be so, you know, like you're focused on that, and then you only realize that you're being exposed to this kind of very aggressive, violent world. So yeah,
that's very true, very true. And with like Frey, I mean, she's, again, I already talked about it. What was it like, kind of, I'm going to steal this one from you, Ken, real quick. Sure. She's probably one of the most complex characters, because in the latest issue, it kind of goes from like a two-sided team with her and Owen to like every man for themselves. So what was it like crafting her journey? Because really, she's one of the best, most complex characters that we've seen written.
Thank you. I mean, we definitely, from an action heroine, wanted to follow in the footsteps of Erica Slaughter and have someone that readers could get really excited to see kick ass, but then when she's not kicking ass, you're really connected to her emotionally. I mean, I think she's really up against insurmountable odds. Her family is kind of far more powerful than she. They're immortal. They're Vikings. Her father's like, you know, a very dominant influence, and he controls levers of government and law enforcement. It's very insurmountable, and so, you know, she's really she's someone you empathize with. You really empathize with her reasons of kind of wanting to be free of her family's influence and wanting to try to do good in the world, and kind of being frustrated with her family's hundreds and hundreds of years of just ruthless tactics. But I think we really, she's grounded. But she's, you know, picking a fight that we're not sure she can win. And so I think she's relatable, and you understand where she's coming from, but then you don't know if she can pull this off and what she might need to learn from it. And I think she's complex because she is trying to, there's two kind of fulcrums by which make her, I think, you know, complex, which is really fun to watch. One is she's kind of fighting to be powerless. She doesn't want to be part of this world. She doesn't want to be powerful.
She's the Jon Snow of Kill All Immortals.
She is. She's she's the Jon Snow. She just or John Wick. She just wants to be at home with her dog. You know, she just wants to be. She doesn't want to be in.
Yeah.
And yet we aren't sure that that's the right motive for her. We're not sure if maybe she does need to be in. Maybe she does need to have more ownership and control over her family. Maybe she can't just leave it to her father and her brother. She's got to get involved and take control of this thing. So we clearly understand what she wants, but we're not sure if that's right or not for her, and we don't know. So that's one. And then she's not sure she wants to be immortal anymore, and we can relate to that too. I mean, you know, you see that in stories about immortality, but here it's very nuanced. But she's not sure if it would be happier and live a better life without this curse of being forced into her father and her family's kind of vision for where things go. Being mortal gives us a lot more freedom. So yeah, I think that there are these different kind of questions that you're not sure what the answers should be, and we've tried to create a story that continually twists and turns at a lot of different areas, and you kind of go, oh, what, I thought it was going this way, and now it's going that way, and I'm pretty confident that the story will continue in that way, to continue to like surprise and deepen as we continue to explore, you know, Frey and these dilemmas she faces.
So what's interesting is you brought up how much you know about the family aspect. What were your biggest inspirations for writing the Asvalds as they were? Were you trying to go for tropey type characters, something we might know, or did you want to take the characters based in Norse mythology and put a real hard twist on them?
I mean, I was definitely like in part influenced by something like Secession and seeing how we view modern day billionaire families. And I think one thing I like to do, I think in all of my writing, is start with the trope or start with the what you expect in some ways, and then as it deepens, you realize that it's not. So, in terms of designing the three brothers, it's very easy to say, okay, well, we're gonna have this giant brother who's like a Thor style kind of character, and just really the strong man, and then you've got the guy who's willing to break all the rules, and then you've got the kind of perfect by the book. So I felt like in terms of designing the characters, we started with just kind of very classic ideas, but then as you get into it, you realize that they're far more complex. They're struggling with their own identities. They're not sure if they want to be mortal or immortal. They're not sure if they want to continue to be subordinate to their father. They have complicated different kinds of relationships with Frey. So I think they just kind of came into it more from a character standpoint. I mean, in terms of the Vikings, they are Vikings and they dress like Vikings in some ways. They've got the Viking hair, they've got the Viking tattoos, but they're modernized. I mean, the idea was to not see Vikings from a century ago, but to see Vikings that have evolved in some way and are now living in our modern life, but also have kind of adapted. They've grown up as time has gone by. So they feel modern, they feel stylish and like someone you would meet today. So I don't think we only used the Viking kind of identity as kind of a starting point, and then we kind of really tried to make sure they felt modern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one thing that definitely jumps out. Like, it doesn't feel dated when you start thinking about Vikings and mythology and such like that. And I love how you brought it up about being stylish, because there's one thing that jumps out to me for the covers, and this kind of ties in with Frey. And maybe I'm looking too far into something, which it possibly does happen. But when you start seeing the covers for this, they're all very posh, the main covers.
Yes.
And you see it's kind of like GQ magazine almost, with a little violent twist, if you will. Is this more an homage to where we see Frey start out because she's a model on the runway and this is kind of her story in a degree? Or how did this come out with FICO and the rest of the art team?
Yeah, the covers are done by an artist named Oliver Barrett, who's absolutely stunning. Yeah. He does the entire A series, and FICO stayed mainly on interiors. We had several amazing artists do B covers, but the entire A cover series, yeah, that was actually you actually nailed the concept that we brought to Oliver Barrett. We said we want this to be GQ magazine covers, essentially. The only thing is they're holding Viking weapons and they're covered in blood. But it's the calm before or after the storm. It's there's no tension. The only tension is what happened. Where did the blood come from? But there they are, just in the nice suit or the nice luxury location, the nightclub, the yacht, the GQ magazine, just looking stylish. And I think it was two parts. I mean, one, Frey, we meet her. She is raising money at Parisian fashion shows, and that's kind of to introduce that she comes from a world that is modern and sexy and stylish. But I think, two, was just to kind of, again, give this whole series a modern feel to it and let readers know that this story is taking itself a little more seriously. The story is going to be a little more grounded. It's going to pay attention to a stylish aesthetic. And even though we have Vikings, it's not going to be dealing with Vikings in a dated or familiar way. This is going to feel posh and luxurious. And I think, and then that kind of cover really captures a duality between violence and power. And kind of, I think those are themes that we play with a lot. And so there's something really powerful about seeing someone dressed very nicely, holding a weapon covered in blood and not talking about it and ignoring it. It kind of makes it power. Like, that's real ballsy power, and it's kind of commonplace. And there's just some inherent commentary to it. So it's very, I'm always looking for the perfect cover. Covers are so important in terms of conveying to readers.
I was about to say this right here. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really slave over it, covers, especially an A cover. And sometimes you get close and sometimes you just absolutely nail it. And this concept just absolutely, Oliver Barrett, it just so perfectly embodied what we were going for. And I've heard readers just talk about not even knowing anything about the series, but seeing this and just being intrigued by the layers that this cover alone conveys. And it conveys so much. You know, I like a cover to be muscular and do a lot, not just do one thing, but like convey a lot of things. This conveys style, character, violence, world, themes, all of that in just one image. So it really knocked it out of the park for us.
Oh yeah, because that's the first thing that struck me when I picked this book up. I was like, this is like, it's GQ with a horror twist almost, because they're so nonchalant. Like, this is another day at the office. Like, oh yeah, just happen to go pillage and absolutely take out somebody with an axe. Like, hey, it's nothing. Okay, I got coffee at 5. Like, we're good. Like, it was just like one of those moments where it's like, as somebody that goes into the shop and sees it, you're like, what is this? But it's like but the best sense possible.
Yes.
Because you want it to pop off the stand. I mean, we have so many amazing books that come out each week that you really have to make that first impression with the cover. And Oliver's work there was fantastic in just that sense. And then really when you open the book, that's where you can kind of see how it mirrors it. Because this whole Viking mythos is definitely not what we see typically. It's very modernized, it's very polished, it's very sleek, and it really conveys to the story.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I would definitely lean along the lines of femme fatale as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for Frey. Now, I mean, the other brother's kind of pretty, but not that pretty.
They are.
Speaking of the characters, what has been your favorite to write? And then on the flip, which is the hardest one to write?
Who's been my favorite to write? Oh man. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love writing Frey. Besides Frey, I think Leaf is really interesting to write, and we get to really get him in 4 because he is really complex too. I think in a lot of ways because he will argue with Frey in a way that the others won't. He accepts her. He'll accept her. He'll engage in the argument.
It's like a place of love almost when he comes out.
He believes she's wrong and he believes they're right, but he'll actually counter her. Whereas I think Stein will speak down to her and does not kind of respect her in the same way. And Thor is so blinded by his role as the family's muscle and monster and he's so saddened by it, but he doesn't see her as being able to bring him any sort of relief. He just doubts that she could ever bring that to him. And so it's interesting to write them. So I think Leaf brings a lot of complexity in that regard. I mean, Eric is another one. We really get Eric in issue 4 a lot, and then in issue 5 he's really fun to write because as far as I try to do it is I try to write Eric right. He's right at every turn. I try to make sure he sounds absolutely right. Like he has to have the ironclad arguments because he's a tyrant. So it would be too easy to let him get away with all that and have really bad arguments. So he has to be able to say, look, I'm doing awful things, but I can explain it all so perfectly that you might even want to join me on that. I'm that convincing. So he's a lot of fun to write too. They're great characters. But Frey is really, I spend the most time on trying to make sure that she is authentic and that she's evolving, I think that each issue she's saying things she probably wouldn't have said in the previous issue. So you can feel that she's propelling towards something and she's shifting. And I think that's exciting to watch as a character, and that's my hope. That if we get to the end of 5 issues and people feel like they've really gone on this journey with Frey, and wherever she lands, they're excited to keep going with her, then that's mission accomplished.
Ooh, can't wait.
And you have been accomplishing, just so you know.
Yeah,
thank you.
I would definitely say that because you take you talked about how like Viking history isn't really it's a part, but not like a big part. But what you do in this series, really, it's an adventure series at the same time. And you spend a lot of time without spending a lot of time with various different historical events. How much did you look into different events that you could tie into this? Because there's things that go back like thousands of years and stuff like that. Like what all went into picking these historical events to go into this book?
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of flashbacks of their life, as they were becoming immortal. And the dates are picked at certain moments in history that if you look around, they correspond to pretty substantial things going on in Europe. But I mean, as far as like that's kind of just indicative of kind of their past. I mean, but then we see Viking castles, we see Viking ships, we see treasure trove of like their plunder that they've had over centuries. So I feel like there are Easter eggs and things like that kind of bring us our excitement about Viking culture. But again, it's also modern. Like their treasure trove is a modern basement. It's a modern.
They kind of own the world at this point. I mean, you even kind of allude to it about the billionaires. I mean, how few in real life do like 3 billionaires own the world, and these guys kind of do run the world.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, looking at their basement, honestly, I had flashbacks to what was it? The Dan Brown, not Da Vinci Code, the second one where they were under in the Vatican. And
yeah.
So
was it Angels and Demons or something like that?
Something like that. I'm like, this looks familiar, but in a good way, because it's nice to see that they have evolved with society and they just don't have everything under lock and key under big old wrought iron.
Yeah, and they've got a super yacht and they've got modern touches. Their castle's got a wire like a normal security fence around it as it would. So yeah, they travel with mercenaries that have guns. It's all our bodyguards or muscles or whatever. It's all modern. I mean, the hope is to make it feel as modern and as realistic as it can be, considering we're dealing with immortal Vikings.
Yeah.
But
we should,
Yeah, but that's, to me, that's the fun part, is having the audience make one leap with us and then trying to make everything else feel as grounded and authentic as possible.
And that's what you want too, because as I say, if you just did it the traditional way, it just wouldn't make any sense. But to really kind of spread the creative juices for this, and really, this is as a writer, when you kind of start coming up with the idea for this, like, do you really just embrace the challenge, or say like, okay, I got this idea, but can I take it here?
Yeah, I mean, well, then I mean, all of my work is very much about trying to connect to thought-provoking, timely discussions and topics. And this is absolutely about the billionaire class and about how the billionaire class seems to rule the world. They are the modern equivalent of being immortal. And then they pass that wealth and power on from generation to generation. Their power and wealth never dies. And their influence over the world is just godly by comparison. And they're untouchable. And so we can see it. We can see it in everyday life, and we've been seeing it for a very long time. And so it begs this question of how does this institution get challenged in any way? And I believe that it kind of has to be challenged from within. And that is why it's really fun to watch Frey go on this emotional journey, because she is slowly discovering her own agency and her own interest in taking on her family after 1,000 years. And it's kind of, you kind of look at it and say, well, how come this hasn't happened before? But we live in a modern age, and billionaires still rule the world. So I find it very plausible that when we meet Frey, she's just still stuck hiding in isolation. I mean, and there are some very pivotal scenes in the story where you learn that she kind of ostracized and isolated herself from her family so she wouldn't have to do bad things. This is her way of saying, I don't want any part of this. I'm not going to be part of you guys. So I'm just going to be over here away from you. And so she has always thought that was the modern, righteous, idealistic choice to make. And now she's coming to realize that, maybe not. Maybe I need to be more connected to what my family's doing, but what does that mean? Does that mean I need to be ruthless? Does that mean I need to be a Viking? Does that mean I need to be a killer? What does that mean? So
I think that's what makes her so interesting, right? Is she's so like, these people are good people. They're just, humans are decent, at their core, their humans are good. We don't need to be just savagely killing everybody needlessly.
Right.
And she really plays it like empathetic, and she's play like a human. She's not without heart. But when the chips are down, man, she also shows that like, don't mess with me, absolutely ruthless. And I think that's what makes her such a compelling character. And I think when anybody's writing a character like this, you capture just that, like the duality of it. And is something that I think why I connect with her so much and why she's such a badass to me is you capture that duality so well, because there are so many heartfelt moments that she has with each brother individually, because the first 4 issues are essentially each issue her coming face to face with a different member of her family and having that empathetic conversation that's not always met, and it ends up being resolved in violence. So like that is just top tier storytelling in my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's something that evolves, and especially I think it's Frey's relationship with Owen that becomes, this very interesting side plot as well.
Owen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you want to explain a little bit about their dynamic?
Are we? Is this a spoiler-free zone? Where are we going with this?
Up to you, honestly.
Yeah, it's your call.
You're the writer.
If you want to keep it, all we can say is
I'll straddle the fence. I mean, the story. If you have not read Kill All Immortals yet, one of the central characters, Frey, has a sort of relationship / romance with a BBC journalist who has been kind of following her and doing a little bit of a story on her. And then they get attacked, and she seeks protection from her family, and she brings Owen with her. And this kind of creates a conflict because obviously this is a family of secrets. They don't want the press around, and they certainly don't want the press doing stories on them. And so Frey obviously does not think that he's doing a story, and he says, I'm not doing a story on the family. And at one point, the family disagrees. And so there's this kind of drama going on there in the story, and you don't really know who to trust, and you don't really know which way is right. And everybody seems to kind of have their own agenda. And there are times where you kind of want Frey to support Owen's agenda, and there are times where you want Frey to kind of consider her family's agenda. And that makes it complicated. And it's also complicated because clearly Frey and Owen are romantically involved, but they're not like deeply, madly in love with each other. It's kind of a very, again,
casual.
It's kind of a casual modern relationship, and you kind of feel like it could be more, but it could also be dangerous. And so, again, by injecting kind of different ways it could go and creating duality and creating kind of like it's not just a black and white relationship, it makes it very interesting to watch the events of the series unfold with that. But I think what's really interesting from like a big picture thing is how modern media and technology and news play into this family's secrets. And I feel like this family has kept secrets for centuries.
Forever.
But just in the past, just in the social media era of cell phones and everyone has now got video and everyone is now connected and journalism is done on a scale en masse, it's suddenly a different ball game, and it is causing you can see that it's causing a different kind of a threat to their family. And so I find that interesting, just especially in terms of the general question of how do billionaires fare in our world. Like, they control all the levers, but these are also tools that can be used to expose truth. So it's an interesting kind of storyline around journalism and Frey and Owen for sure.
Yeah, because especially it brings to the forefront the debate about the 1% and the 99, if you will, and it's sort of like, where does Frey fall there? Because you can see that this is almost like a tug of war at her and her emotions, even though like it's so casual with Owen, but she still empathizes with humans more so than her own family at times, and it's like now just this big tug of war that really, I mean, is her driving factor. Like it's more like a story of self-discovery in her sense than it is, more like the quest for power, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there are some big dramatic questions that are coming towards the last issue of this arc and in issue 5 for sure in terms of what's going to happen. But I think that like it's interesting because you have some of these battles are immortals fighting immortals. So that no one's dying because they're both immortal. So even if Frey defeats one of her brothers, he even
says it like, you can kill me, but I'm just gonna come right back anyways.
Yeah. so it's like, how do you create tension there? And actually there's a surprising amount of tension because this is actually an existential war between these characters over their perceptions and points of view on the world, which will have a detrimental impact on which way the family goes. We're talking about a billionaire family that controls millions of people's lives and a tremendous amount of wealth and power in the world, and they're currently facing one of their own threatening everything. And so in that debate, we want Frey to win, we think, and we can see that we're these warring philosophies at play. And so even though the fight is two immortals and someone might get their head chopped off at the end, there's really a different fight going on, which is who's going to be persuaded and who's going to come out on top in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean that's what it ultimately comes down to, and that's what makes it so compelling to readers. Is just you think you have an idea, but you really weave in and out just like the underlying theme, which I think is great as somebody that reads. It's something that keeps me guessing because it's like just as I start putting my theories together, it completely goes out the window, and I'm like, oh wait, what are we doing here?
That takes a lot to do that to Ken, just so you know.
Yeah, I know. I have to message Matt and Tom in the bullpen. I'm like, okay, we need to talk about this scene that happened here because I mean, I don't want to spoil anything for issue 4. Like that is how good I think this book is. So
we can drop a clock out now and talk about it if we want to. If you're listening and you haven't read issue 4, we can go ahead and say get off for a minute because we're about to talk about it.
I could put the spoiler ticker on. We do have that actually placed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Put a spoiler ticker. Yeah.
Yeah, give me a second. I can do this, but I'll let Tom ask a question here while I'm setting this up.
So, with the story finally, coming to a close, just next year in January 2025, are there any future plans for the series that we can talk about? Are we getting a spin-off? Are we getting, maybe an adaptation in another sort of medium? What can we talk about since we are putting the spoiler thing up?
We are continuing this series. So
yes,
we are continuing this series, and we're not continuing this series with a spinoff. We're continuing Frey's story.
Yes.
So yes, there's more. There is more coming for sure.
I am pleased. Thank you. I don't have to burn down Dark Horse's office. We're good.
No.
I don't have to go. I had the pitchfork ready.
Dark Horse. This book has done very, very well. Yeah. It sold out a huge first print run, and Dark Horse has heard loud and clear. So we are doing more. This has been. I guess unofficially been promoted to an ongoing series. So
congratulations.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
Are we going to get a trade hardback or paperback at some point, I'm guessing?
Yeah, the first 5 issues will be collected in trade paperback. That'll come out in, I want to say, like April or so. And then to be determined, but we're very, very hopeful that we will get the next issue post that first trade sometime next year. It is to be determined whether it would be summer or fall or when that would be, but we don't want to keep readers waiting too long. So we're hopeful to try to get it out as soon as we can. We definitely are planning more.
I am so excited. I know. I'll say, dude, I'm so excited. I cannot tell you how much I'm loving this book. You've really, like the sci-fi genre, man. I think you've done a lot of great things, like Beyond Real, Dark Empty Void, which is ongoing, and there is a new issue coming out tomorrow. Issue number 2 comes out tomorrow for everybody, and then obviously Kill All Immortals. Like you're crushing it. So where do you go next? Is the sci-fi genre one you're going to keep sticking with as well? Because I know you're promoted up to full series there, or are you looking to branch out to anywhere else?
I mean. Actually, Dark Empty Void is my 12th creator-owned book, And almost all of them have been sci-fi. I mean, Kill All Immortals is the least sci-fi. It's kind of more like supernatural genre.
It's like
and
an
there
action.
are, yes, and if you've read it, there are some sci-fi touches in there that kind of will allow it to be considered loosely sci-fi, but it's pretty much a more supernatural action. And it also really came out of me wanting to write something that was really action oriented. Everything that I had written had not been action. I mean, there are a couple. Join the Future was a sci-fi western that had a somewhat action kind of heroine to it, but Kill All Immortals is like balls to the wall fight action heroine, and I just really wanted to try it. And I think it's actually given me a lot of excitement and confidence to do more of that. So as I continue to chart out series for 2025 and 2026, I'm looking to take on more, stories that maybe are in the genre world of supernatural, but not always pure sci-fi, or that continue to follow action heroes or heroines that embrace a bit more action, because I feel Kill All Immortals has been such a positive experience. So yeah, but I don't think, so I am continuing to try to expand what I do a little bit here and there, but most of the sci-fi stuff I do is kind of cross genre anyway, sci-fi, mindset,
very much so.
Sci-fi thriller, Beyond Real is a sci-fi adventure of sorts.
Great comic for anybody who hasn't read Beyond Real. That's a really cool, Matrix-y type story. And then honestly, Dark Empty Void's kind of like an Interstellar meets Alien almost type from the 2 issues that we've gotten so far.
This is the Mad Cave series with Chris Sheehan and Francisco Segala and World. The second issue comes out tomorrow, so it's right to jump on. And it's basically, what if scientists opened a microscopic black hole here on Earth, and then they lose control and crazy things start coming out, including a human being. And it's very much in that Annihilation's Arrival, maybe a little bit of Alien sort of vibe to it, kind of claustrophobic, cosmic sci-fi horror. It's a horror book. It's also my kind of first real horror book, and loving this series as well, in terms of like playing with horror and a new kind of experience for me too.
Is there any challenges to that at all, since you said it's your first kind of horror, or did you find that it was exciting and easy kind of coming to you? Sorry, Tom, I think you're about to talk. I apologize for.
No, I think it's playing with creatures and monsters. The Dark Empty Void has creatures and monsters in it, so playing with that for the first time and playing with how to build up to those sorts of scares in organic ways. I think in the same way that I tried to take fights in Kill All Immortals and say, well, how can I take a fight but make it feel dramatic, make it feel as new as I can make it, make it feel connected to the story. I find myself with those same kinds of challenges and questions in Dark Empty Void, in terms of trying to make the horror connected to the story but feel scary. And so it's I'll be excited to hear how people think as that series goes on too. But I think anytime you take on a new genre, you have to kind of understand the conventions and learn how to play with them a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect example here is you have a really strong baseline in sci-fi. What are some of your great series that have inspired you to reinterpret into comics?
Oh, you mean comic book series?
Yep.
I mean, I love all things Remender. I'm very inspired by Remender. He moves, I think his storytelling moves faster than I move sometimes. I feel like sometimes some of my favorites, whether it's Deadly Class or Black Science or Fear Agent, they're so propellant, it's absolutely bonkers. But I really like, I just really love the kind of immersive sci-fi worlds that he plays with. I'm trying to think of others. I love Department of Truth and things, and World Tree, and Nice House on a Lake. These are actually slower burn stories for me, so it's a completely different side of pacing than Remender. But I really just love the character work in Tynan's stories, and And some of that sci-fi is just absolutely, that really scratches an itch for me. So, but there's so many great stories out there, and I find that there's some really amazing things that have just been, that'll be a one-off, or just the creators did one thing that's absolutely, amazing. So, there's always, there's so many. It's so hard to pick.
Now, outside of comics, a lot of things are getting option to, hit the big screen and the small screen. If you could see this series on screen, who would you cast as Frey?
I have the answer. I saw this actress being talked about actually as a potential new Tomb Raider heroine, and I was like, well, that was my idea for Frey, and this is Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, I did see her getting talked about.
Yeah,
that.
I remember.
I have seen that. Yeah,
she's tall. She's got model good looks. I think she would make an absolutely amazing action heroine. She's kind of icy cold, but emotive and empathetic. So if it was not Sophie Turner, I would definitely think someone akin to that sort of.
Well, I had two that I was going to throw out there. One, Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah.
All right.
I would say a Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, that's like the Mandalorian type there. Okay, I can see it. Yeah.
And then there's also Elle Fanning. Are you familiar with her?
Oh, I know her. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Elle Fanning.
Tall. She's got that really good pale Norse Scandinavian vibe.
Yes.
I'll tell you, there's one answer for me that came right to mind because she has proven herself in the act. This is me because she's such a badass in the action world that I feel like she could take this as well. If like Sophie Turner, now that you'd said that, like I would love to see that. But if we could not get her, dude, Charlize Theron.
Yeah, that's
what she's such a badass. Like she's so good in the action like films that.
But the thing I will say is I really feel like Frey is from an age standpoint, I feel like she's like 23, 24, 25. I see her as young. And the reason I see her as young is because I think that the reason that she is having a hard time taking command and owning these decisions more is because of her youth, even though she's 1,000 years old.
She's immortal, but she's like young for an immortal.
I feel like she is young, and I feel like she's trapped in the age that she gained her immortality. And so in the same way that her father is trapped in his probably late 50s, I feel like she's trapped in her early 20s. And there's something about a woman who's at 30 or early 30s who becomes a whole lot more decisive and a whole lot more understanding of who she is and what she will and will not tolerate. And so I think that if I were seeing this on film or TV, the opportunity to see a younger character kind of go through this, I think would be a lot more emotionally engaging.
Yeah.
So that's why I think Sophie Turner or Elle Fanning.
Or even Millie Alcott, I can't never pronounce it, who's playing Supergirl. She would also be another good. She's got the young, the Norse kind of like look with the hair.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be another really good one. Yeah.
Let's do it. Call them up.
Hey, all right. You know what we do next?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd say with the word of mouth that's going around about this book, I'm not doubting that, putting the karma out there that this would not happen, because I think with every issue we've done here and just talking with fans online, like more people are getting into it. And especially now it's being renewed for, the going to ongoing. I mean, that is just a testament to the work and how it's standing up. Yes.
We're excited. We're excited to keep it going. We're not going anywhere. And I've been fortunate to have several of my titles picked up in Hollywood for film and TV adaptations. So here's hoping. I would love to see this developed. So,
yeah. Give it to us. We need it.
Yes.
Because I'm such a fan, man. I am like fangirling over here because this is one of the ones I really believe in right from the get-go. I texted Ken after I read issue 1. I was like, this is going to be a hit.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
I can't wait. I can't wait for you to see the issue 5.
I'm pumped.
You just said it now. We won't say nothing. We'll sign NDAs.
We do have NDAs signed, but yeah,
I'll get it to you guys here a little earlier. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're definitely gonna be talking about that.
Oh yeah.
We talk about like dream projects and such. Is there ever like a superhero that you would dream like putting out in the world, like you'd want to do a story on?
I would love to do Marvel or DC content, or I mean, certainly there's some other licenses. I mean, like I would love to play in the Blade Runner world, or the Dune world. There are some sci-fi titles that I absolutely love, so I would love to do stuff like that. But in terms of like superheroes, I'd love to do it. It has to be the right one, I think, for my voice, and I think it has to be. It has to be either in the sci-fi kind of view. I mean, I'd love to play with Green Lantern, or that sort of.
I was gonna say like that, or like the Atom or something like that, like real sciencey type. I feel like that would fit.
Something real in the sci-fi vibe.
Adam Strange.
Adam Strange, absolutely. Or if it was a character like if it was a supernatural character, maybe something heady like a Doctor Strange, someone who has to deal with
Dr. Fate.
Yeah, Fate. Yeah. So, I mean, it would have to be the right character, but there's a lot of things that I would like to play with. But I don't think that I generally like. There's some that I just be like, I would not be right for Spider-Man. I would not be. I don't think I would be right for Superman.
What if you wrote a villain story? Hold on, here, go with me on this one for a second. Spidey, but you're not right. You're writing in the Spideyverse. Ken's giving me the look.
Yeah.
Ken's like, stop.
But you're writing, say, Doc Ock stories, or if you're writing Doctor Doom stories, like, let's throw it to the other side of the science.
Any doctor, I'd be good with any scientist for sure.
Like a Mr.
Someone
Freeze.
said X-Men. Yeah, some of the X-Men I like a lot.
Bishop.
So, yeah, but it'd have to be the right one. I certainly wouldn't want to just jump into the wrong. And I like this complexity. Like a lot of my stories, I like character complexity, and I like and so it has to be a story that's okay with that, that's right for that. So
for sure.
Yeah. I already see it in my mind. You writing Silver Surfer.
I would
do that. Yeah.
That's the one I see you like when I was starting to think of this question. I'm like, he's gonna write Silver Surfer someday. Like it just in some capacity. So we're putting that karma out.
I would do that.
But yeah.
That's exactly what I thought. Not kidding.
No, like I say, but because I mean, you have mastered the craft of sci-fi with your work, and there's always the vibe, and especially taking characters that really are so layered. But we don't have. I mean, we do have great stories, but it's like when you can really deep dive into the layers behind the characters and like all the stuff they've seen. Like I say, you bring it out here too, especially with Kill All Immortals. Kind of circle back. It's like you take the genre, you really flip it, you give us something different, and then that's something as readers we can really sink our teeth into. And then, whatever you have coming for the rest of 2025 now. I mean, Kill All Immortals is on deck. We do know, obviously, about Dark Empty Void. What else is on tap?
Guys, nothing's announced yet. I can't talk.
Okay. All right, so we're going to end the episode.
Respect.
But I have I'll probably end 2025 with at least 3 new series out by the end of next year. So as long as everything goes as it seems to. So I have new stuff coming, but it's to be determined. It certainly is not going to be coming at the beginning of the year. It'll be coming in the middle of the year or fall. And nothing is ready to be announced just yet. But yeah, I will say like we'll be probably playing more in action, and I'm excited about that. So yeah, Kill All Immortals has been a fun project to stretch my action muscles.
No, that's exciting to hear. And then, like I say, to our readers and listeners, wherever you're checking this episode out, you really want to make sure you get down to the comic shops and go check out Zach's work. He does phenomenal stuff. Kill All Immortals is one of the year's best series.
Thank you.
If you haven't checked it out, really take the time to do it. Don't wait for the trade if you can hold. If you have the means to do it, go get the single issues, but definitely don't miss on the trades. And I would say, Zach, any final words? If anybody has heard this episode and they're not fully sold, what is the final sales pitch about? They should be running to the comic shops to go get this.
For Kill All Immortals, I mean, it's a Session meets John Wick with Immortal Vikings. So, I mean, if that doesn't scratch the itch for you, then fair enough. It's got, I do hope, it does have a really badass female heroine, and I'm excited to hear so many people excited by Frey. So I feel like if you're looking for something that, and also we got some twists and turns. So God bless anybody that can read 3 or 4 issues and then wait for the trade. I think if you're at issue 4, I've got you for issue 5. So
I would say so.
Very much.
The mic drop moment that happens at the end of issue 4, and that is all I'm going to say about it. If you don't immediately go check your comic shops, check online to see when issue 5 is coming out, I don't know if you have a pulse. Because
did you guys see it coming? Did anybody go, I knew it?
I thought something was up.
Yes,
I will say because
you had me second guessing myself. I'll give you that.
Said character kind of tipped something off when they were talking to the family, and that's all I will say about that. Because, like I say, I really don't. I know the ticker's on about saying spoilers, but I will just say this: when said character was meeting with the family and slipped and said something, I was like, oh. Your future is very short here. Somebody is going to get you one way or the other, and I really don't think I'm going to be sad when I see this happen.
My only spoiler is go out and get the damn book.
Yeah. Honestly.
Well, definitely go out and get it, and especially tomorrow, go check out Dark Empty Void, because that is going to be one of the featured reviews by Nerd Initiative. Megan, who's in the chat, is covering that tomorrow, so you definitely want to go check out issue 2 and pick up issue number 1 on the way. Zach, thank you so much for swinging by the show. When Kill All Immortals comes, we got to have you back before Kill All Immortals volume 2 comes out. But yeah, we'll definitely plan on doing something special for that with Nerd Initiative.
Awesome. I'll close just by saying we talked a lot about the story and the characters. The artwork in the book is absolutely phenomenal.
Yes.
Tito Osu and Thiago Rocha are killing it on the interiors. I feel like the interiors get better and better. Hassan is our letter. He just won the Eisner Award.
That dude is everywhere this year.
Yeah.
He's killing it.
He's killing it. And seeing the fights with the sound effects, it's an absolutely amazing creative team. So not only is it a great story, but I really feel like you will be really blown away by the artwork. There's some amazing double page spreads that are just so world building and so awesome. So check it out. You'll love it.
Absolutely. There's no way if you pick up this book, you're not instantly hooked. Like, that is how good this is, because literally you're expecting one thing, you get constant curveballs thrown at you. And as a reader, that's what you want, because you don't want to sit here and go, oh, this is the same old, same old. This book definitely is not. This is one that you're going to be constantly kept on your toes, constantly watching and see what happens. They don't pull any punches with the art. Like I say, you're going to see a lot of really BA stuff, because I know I can't really swear on YouTube, but you're going to see a lot of stuff that completely is going to get you hooked. And then the story behind it. And seriously, if Frey's not one of your favorite characters by the end of the year, I would be completely shocked, because the twists and turns with her character is definitely one that will captivate the audience, and we'll have fans talking about this. And it's why this book is getting the buzz it is, and especially carrying through into the trade paperback. And we're literally going to be counting down the days when issue 6 drops.
Yes.
That is how good the series is. So that being said, on behalf of Zach, thank you again for coming through. On behalf of Tom, Matt, and myself, we just want to say thank you as always for checking out Turn a Page. Remember, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on nerdinitiative.com, we have got 40 reviews dropping, I believe, the entire day of the best picks. Dark Empty Void is in the mix, and literally, if you need to know what to pick up at the comic shop, nobody, and I mean nobody, does it like the Nerd Initiative Bullpen, hands down. So you want to make sure you check that out, and we'll end it like we always do on Turn a Page. When you're at the comic shops and you have a great issue in your hands, such as Kill All Immortals by Dark Horse Comics, and you see somebody struggling to find something, hand yours off to them. Tell them to turn a page. We'll see you next week.
I'm out.
Peace.